You got to pull up the Legacy deck?
Legacy deck.
Are you going to pull it out? What up, and welcome to another episode of Tilted Pod. I'm your host, Seth. Don't call me Jack Wilds, and I'm sitting here with my main squeeze, my main man, my werewolf, my cat daddy, my hippopotami, my mousy bow. I don't know what I'm saying. Hey, what up, Daywalker?
What up?
Yo, it's Nate Morris. If you didn't know,
Now you know.
Now you know. So we are sitting here talking about Magic because it's Tilted Pod, and that's what we friggin' do. Okay, we friggin' talk Magic, dudes. And we like to start off every week with what we've been doing. So, Nate, take it away.
What have I been doing? Oh, yeah, that's right. I've been playing Magic. I finally tested out the Saturday Showdown. That was a super fun time. Played me some green-red dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's sweet.
It was pretty sweet.
This is your, now let's clarify, this is like one of your first standard events in like, what?
Oh, man.
A couple years?
3 years, probably.
That's so amazing. Okay,
yeah, it was a fun time.
Did you take it down?
I did. I took it down. I took first. It was not very big, but still big enough for me to feel accomplished. I won packs, so that's how big it was. Pulled me some promo lands, which are also cool. The deck felt solid though. I'm really excited about this Dinosaurs deck. Not a lot of people are on it right now.
Like no one's on it.
Like no one's on it. I've been trying to make it my own. Trying to figure out where its deficiencies are, and I think I've pretty much hammered it down. It's just if your big fatty gets removed, you have to wait a whole nother turn to play a whole nother big fatty, and if they have something underneath you, you're probably in a hurt spot. I also found out the deck can't beat Scarab God, so there's that.
Yeah, it's probably a problem then.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah. Well, what did I do this week? I obviously watched some Magic. I played a little Magic. I played Modern. I played with some Monument, Atarka's Monument in Modern. I tested against 3 decks. I tested against Scapeshift, Affinity, and what was the other deck I tested against? Now I can't remember what was the other deck I played against. But Scapeshift and Affinity were the first ones, and then I think it was just like green-red land destruction or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Ponza?
Ponza. And it actually held its own against a lot of decks. You know why?
Well, why is that?
Well, it's because of one card in particular. Can you guess? It's like the best card in the deck. Well, Monument is probably the best card in the deck. But
Wall of Omens.
Yeah, it was definitely because of Wall of Omens, like 100%. That
awesome.
No, dude, it was a Spell Queller.
No, Spell Queller.
Spell Queller was super good. Like,
that's a good card.
It stopped Scapeshift so many times, and then if they didn't have a bolt, I could just like kind of run them over because they were usually like I was usually like developing a board big enough to like handle. I'm just always going to lose to that end of the game, So that was cool. I like that.
That's not bad.
It's not a great deck, but it's not awful.
I think any deck can do well in Modern right now, though.
I think Modern is sometimes, like, this was the big complaint I had with Modern before. Sometimes Modern is such a just dice roll. Sometimes it is like, who's going first, who's on the play, or, who draws their sideboard cards.
Right.
It's really, I'm excited to see what Standard is like whenever it pans out a little more, to see if there's going to be, I don't know, if it's going to be a little bit more well-rounded, and less of a, like, any deck can possibly win. Instead of like, there's just matches that like you're never gonna win in Modern, and then but then it's like it's not that great of a deck. You're gonna lose to a lot of things, but you can just crush a few other things.
Right. I mean, look at the deck Boggles. You know what I mean? How good has Boggles really been? But it can go to a tournament, and if nobody's prepared for it, just roll over everybody because they don't have the correct answers. Yeah.
I feel like Boggles is just one of those weird decks that. It's so good when you play against it and you're not prepared. You're just, well, why does not everybody play this deck? But when you're beating it, you're just crushing it. There's no... I don't feel like there's an in-between. It was, it's just like you're either crushing it or it's crushing you.
Yeah, turn one Thoughtseize, you take Slippery Boggle, and then they have to wait 3 turns to draw another creature, and you're just like, well, this deck is awful.
Yeah, it seems really, really bad. So, what happened this week in Magic? Ixalan's out. It's here.
It's out, yeah.
People are partying with it, except they're not.
Except they're not. I mean, if you look at some of the results that we'll get into.
So we're going to talk about the World Championship.
Yeah.
We're just going to go ahead and talk about it.
Okay,
now.
let's just get into it.
Since it's, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of information this week, and this seems to be the most, the biggest news. We're going to talk a little bit about this and this leading into Magic Arena as well. But 2017 World Championship. So Wizards made a choice to show to have the World Championships as like their first foray into Ixalan in a big event instead of the Pro Tour. I'm not 100% sure how well that was met. We're talking about the top pros, 24 of the, it's 24, right? 24 of the top pros in the world, who are all obviously going to be on the best deck. They're going to try to pick. I don't think there's a lot of like weird rant. That community is pretty tight knit when you think about it. Everyone's kind of talking to everyone. They all know each other. So it's probably really hard to develop a new deck completely and keep it under wraps for this tournament. I'm talking about people on the same team are going to battle at this tournament. And of course, there's a lot of money on the line. I mean, they kept talking about $100,000. So everyone's just gonna show up with what they think is already established deck. So I feel like it was kind of poor for the fact that we didn't really see any new cards, man.
We didn't. It was a little bit of a bummer.
Now, it was won by William Huey Jensen,
which we love. Huey.
Love Huey. I love a lot of the people in this tournament. I think as they're all, they're just the best players, right?
Yeah.
And he was playing Teamer Energy. And what did he have from the new set?
He had, I think, 1 or 2 new cards, and that was it. And I think that they were...
We're talking like some Rootbound Crags,
lands. It was a playset of Rootbound Crags was the only cards he had from Ixalan.
Yeah, there's really nothing in this. Nothing at all. It's pretty sad, actually. I feel like with this new set, and we're not just talking about a new set coming out and like a small set that didn't have much effect. We're talking about full rotation.
Yeah,
and the new set can't even get in.
We saw a rotation and 263-ish cards, whatever the set was, like all come in. We saw new lands, we saw big creatures, we saw a little bit of everything, new removal, new counters, and none of it made it into some of these decks. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's. I feel like this is like possibly one of the least,
impactful sets we've had
I've ever seen.
And the crazy part for me is that this is the most fun I've had in Standard because of these new cards from Ixalan.
Right. And I really like the new cards from Ixalan. But, so William Huey Jensen took it down with Teamer Energy. But it was followed up by Ramanat Bread, which was a very popular choice at this tournament. And I can see that why. The deck is still good. It didn't lose very much. It's pretty awesome. It's a good deck full of cards that are good. And this, we did see some new cards. Lightning Strike, we got 4 of the Lightning Strike in most of these decks, and that is got to be the most seen, card from Ixalan.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything even close. We've got Shocks of Braids, Lightning Strikes now in your spell sweep for the Ramanat Red deck, at least from Javier Dominguez's deck. And I'm pretty sure almost every, like Christian Calcano's deck also running 4 Lightning Strikes. I'm pretty sure all of them. It would make the most sense anyways.
Yeah.
So the only thing we had that was a little different, right, was Blue-Black Control. And Grixis, a little bit of Grixis.
A little bit of Grixis, a little bit of Blue-Black Control.
Well, actually, like one Grixis deck. But
same
so Josh Utter-Layton, Blue-Black Control, and Kelvin Chu, both, they ended up piling to a 3rd and 4th finish. Josh Utter-Layton, what do you think about this deck?
I think the Blue-Black Control deck looks like a ton of fun for Standard. I think that the concept is really cool. I really like, Scarab God, even though he's ridiculously expensive right now. Torrential Gearhawks are cool. The card in here from Ixalan, Vraska's Contempt, I think deals with a lot of things it probably couldn't deal with otherwise.
Yeah, I do think this is one of the best cards from Ixalan. It also, though, this deck had more, Ixalan cards than any other card, and that's still not very many.
I really like Search for Azcanta. I think that card's great too.
I think that's cool.
I like that this deck has play sets. I think that that's important for a blue-black control deck. And Standard right now has 4 Fatal Push, 4 Censor, 4 Essence Scatter, 4 Disallow, 4 Hieroglyphic Illumination. Like, just to get some of those repetitive good cards in your hand through Search for Azcanta, or just naturally drawing them, or through Glimmer of Genius, just some, I think there's a lot of ways to get to these cards. And if you don't hit them early, you could die. And so I like that they have repetitiveness now. The land base seems really solid right now for blue-black control. I mean,
Yeah.
for any control deck, honestly, just the 4 Evolving Wilds, 4 Feeded Pools, 3 Field of Ruins, 6 Islands, 4 Swamps, or 5 Swamps, 4 Drowned Catacombs. I mean, that's a lot of lands coming in untapped. I know that it kind of sucks for the Evolving Wilds to get it down turn 1, but it's not always, sunshine and rainbows and lands, but it's still a very solid deck for the later turns when you're playing all of your lands untapped.
Yeah, I feel like this Field of Ruin card is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. This land. I wasn't like 100% sure on what I thought about that card before, but seeing it in here, it's kind of a cool player or a cool card. Like maybe cut somebody's source, and also. You might possibly be able to cut one of the red sources, or you could take them off of those. What are those blood? You know what I'm talking about.
There's Runamap Ruins,
yeah,
and Sun-Scorched Deserts. Yeah.
Ramanap, yeah,
Ramanap.
thank you. Maybe take them off of that,
Yeah.
which isn't great, but you're both grabbing a land, take them off their scavenger grounds.
Well, I think it also hurts Tamir more than it hurts anybody else. You could really start getting into color troubles with that deck as far as cutting them off of something there, that's important to them. I mean, it's one thing if they get an Aether Hub down, then you have to target it, or they just can continuously tap it for anything.
Right.
But if they're playing, Forest, Botanical Sanctum, and, Rootbound Crag, you hit that Crag and their red's gone. And that's a big portion of their deck.
Right. So the one version of Grixis by Shota Yasuoka, we're going to go over the differences here. We've got 1 Nicol Bolas, 4 Ops, which I don't think were in just the blue-black version.
No, they were not.
Also, a Braid is our red. Harness Lightning, Unlicensed Disintegration is a 1-of, and 1-of Hour of Devastation. And then, obviously, the lands are going to be changing up with Dragon Skull Summits, etc. It's actually running 2 less lands.
This was a very interesting deck for me, to say the least. I was a little confused on 2 less lands and running the Nicol Bolas. They're running 1 less Scarab God and 1 less Torrential Gearhawk.
It's just like they have to cut so many weird things.
Yes.
For like how you like the other deck being a lot of 4-ofs. This one's got so many 3s, 2s, and 1s.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's scattered. He's got a lot of ways to find these things with Supreme Will.
But when you're only running 1-ofs, just trying to find it is hard.
Right. I mean, 4 Ops though, 3 Glimmers and 3 Supreme Wills. Mm-hmm. You're drawing quite a few cards with this deck.
But when you only have 4 big threats to find, I mean, finding a threat could just be a challenge in itself. You're trying to get to that 1 Scarab God, the 1 Nicol Bolas, or the 2 Torrential Gearhawks.
Right. I feel like this game definitely goes long, though.
Yeah.
And then you also have the search to find your 1-of Disintegration, your Hour of Devastation. I don't know. I like the deck.
I like the deck.
I think I would prefer the blue-black.
Yeah, I think that having 2 Scarab Gods is ultimately the best you can do. I mean, the first one, right now, the card is so hot, it's going to get exiled anyway. I think you want to be at 2. I mean, no more than 2, obviously, because it comes back. There is that recursion. But, I mean, there's just so many ways to get rid of it now. There's the land that exiles the graveyard. There's, Vraska's Contempt. There's Cast Out, which is an instant exile your stuff.
Essentially.
Yeah, so it's essentially it's an enchantment with flash. But it can get rid of stuff, pretty quickly. And so I think having the second one defined is ultimately better, because having the second answer is much less likely. They're not prepared for that much. But I mean, it was an interesting worlds, to say the least. The deck breakdown, or the most played card section, is just incredible. I mean, I don't know that you could write it up any differently, to be honest. It's just all red. The number one played card was a Braid, and it was in 83 percentage of the decks. There were 63 copies of it and 24 decks.
I just think it's funny that like we literally finished talking about every deck already.
We just
done.
talked about every deck. Chandra was
24 players, and that's it. That was it.
3 decks, we're done. 4 decks technically with Grixis control.
Yeah, which is basically the same thing we talked about in the blue-black control.
Yeah.
That blows my mind how I mean that's kind of ridiculous.
It is.
And we talked about no cards from the new set.
And this is, we talked about a couple, but that was it. And this is just the problem everybody had with Standard to begin with. It was just monotonous, and you had to play one of the big 3,
But see, I don't think this would have happened if this was a Pro Tour.
No,
I think
for sure.
I think we definitely would have seen other decks. Now we're talking about 300 to 400 players.
Yeah.
Right? People are going to be brewing and trying to find ways to break cards. Where in this, everyone is for sure. There's too much on the line for this tournament. You can't go into it. And you would think that for a Pro Tour, but with that many players, they're like, okay, how could I spike it by finding this weird deck?
Yeah.
But for Worlds, right after the set comes out, really, the's just, what are you going to do?
There's no reason other than play it safe and play something strong.
Right. I completely don't. I understand what they're doing. I understand why they would want to do that. Come in like this. We didn't even see the Abzan tokens list. We didn't see the Esper gifts list.
There's no dinosaurs.
And we have hardly been seeing that anywhere.
Yeah. It was a huge letdown. I will say that when Rivals comes out, I expect dinosaurs to see a major spike. I think that perhaps they were a little soft in the first one. I expect something crazy to come out in the second set.
I kind of wonder if they pushed energy so hard and then dinosaurs can't, like, they were making the dinosaurs and they're like, we can't push them that hard because we just pushed vehicles and then vehicles were super busted. And then we push energy and it turns out energy is just ridiculous. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy alternate cost that I don't think anybody could. I had no clue it was going to be as good as it is. And then, so they're on dinosaurs, and they're like, all right, are we going to make these guys just straight busted? And I feel like it looked at first when we were reading the cards, you're like, yeah, these are great. But busted, then you realize that they're not that. They're just big creatures.
They're big creatures.
They're not doing anything that crazy.
Yeah. Outside of Carnage Tyrant, they're all pretty easy to handle,
Yeah. It's pretty wild. That is, that's all we know about Standard. I will say this: I am excited to see what these cards look like and play like in MTG Arena.
Yeah, that is truth.
So Arena, we're obviously in the dev stage. We're still in the last development stage. I think the first set of testing of betas are going out. Right? Mm-hmm. There's some developer copies are going out this week, I think.
Yeah.
So they're going to be going over that. They showed some more of it at Worlds. Looks cool. It looks, I'm still on the fact that it looks like Hearthstone. Mm-hmm. Looks, you have more control over things than in Hearthstone. Also seems like a lot of animations. Seems like everything is doing animations.
Well, they want it to look pleasant too. I think one of the big complaints over the years from anybody who tried to play MTGO is that it's just ugly.
Right.
Your screen is just ugly. So I think they wanted to go over the top with design on Arena and try and pull some of those people in.
So here's a question I have with MTG Arena, though, is I play Magic Online, as you know. But I tried to sell out recently just to kind of look. Well, no one's offering any cash prices anymore. I think a lot of people are scared that their collection is about to plummet. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who made a lot of money, I don't know about a lot of money, but there's a lot of people who made a living off of buying and selling cards on Magic Online. There's a few stores and companies that were primarily Magic Online oriented. I wonder what they are thinking. Now, again, can't play Modern on MTG Arena. Can't play Legacy. Those are very popular. Well, Modern is a very popular format.
Yeah.
So what? I don't know. No Commander. What's going to happen? Are you concerned with MTGO at all? Like, if you had MTGO cards right now, would you be concerned, or do you think that this is going to be an intro to Magic, but not going to take it over?
I would be, scale of 1 to 10, I'd be probably at a 3 as far as where I would be with my collection on MTGO. And I'll tell you why. I don't think that Arena is going to be able to take over the competitive side that MTGO has. Modern is too popular. Legacy is popular to the players who play it, and if they can't play it on Arena, I don't see why they would play. And so I think they will still want to have that outlet to play competitive Legacy events, and I don't think Arena is going to offer that.
The other thing is, like, what about the economy? So my cards, well, up until, recently, were actually worth paper dollars. Mm-hmm. Were worth real life credits, if you will, at like for MTGO. Yeah. But Hearthstone, my collection in Hearthstone is worth nothing. It's whatever I put into that collection, that's it's it. Done. I don't ever get anything back out of it unless I try to sell my account on eBay or something for $10. But I put in, new video games worth, $60 here, $20 there. It adds up over time. Yeah. It was a pretty expensive game, and then when sets rotate, you get to dust your cards, but that's it. It's over. Right. So I'm wondering, I think once they announce how it's going to be paid for, then people are going to decide whether or not it's even worth investing in. Because at least now, if you buy a Modern or a Legacy or even a Standard deck on MTGO, in a couple of months, well, normally, that you could just get out of it if you want. Say you come into hard times, you can just sell that bad boy for cash. It's like a real collection.
And I think that's the draw to MTGO for a lot of people, is that they can just invest, play, have fun, and then something comes up, they can sell it. Yeah. They're more likely to do it.
Yeah, you can also like stream decks now, which is pretty cool. There's some sites that are doing that where you can it's basically renting MTGO decks. I think that's really cool. So yeah, I'm hoping that I will still be able to get out while I can, but I'm not getting out completely. I just want to get out of a few things. Right. So I don't know, but MTG Arena looks pretty cool.
It does look cool.
At the same time, they unveiled the new logo.
The new logo?
What do you think about it?
I personally like it. I know that it's getting a lot of flack right now.
I just don't think it's that special.
It's not special.
I'm not a very big fan of the Planeswalker symbol already. I don't really like that symbol.
Well, I think I'm on the opposite side. I like that symbol a lot.
Do you?
I'm all about it.
Yeah. Okay. So see, I never really dug that so much. I think it's cool that they're changing. The thing that I'm just always worried about, though, is they can never change the back of the card. Yeah. Right? Like, as long as that back of that card stays the same, I do not care what their logo is.
I agree.
Obviously don't make it a hate sign or something like that. Right. But I'm sure they're smart enough business people to not do that.
But if you look at where Magic was and where it is now, I think that the inclusion of Planeswalkers has just made the game better. I mean, it's
definitely changed it.
It's definitely changed it, yeah, for sure. And we could debate whether or not for the good or for the bad, but I think that it's given Magic a story now that people like to follow. The lore of Magic the Gathering is now based around these, Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that the Planeswalkers helped.
Yeah, and because of
nobody really knew about Urza, like before. Like, they talked about the brothers Urzas, but like now I feel like it's so much easier to follow the actual story.
For sure.
We really dive in. I mean, Jace is a little bit overplayed, but at least we have like a celebrity.
Yeah, and they do overplay some of the Planeswalkers a lot, and I think that that's what gets people upset the most, is how many Jaces and Nissas and Chandras and Lilianas we have in comparison to some of these other cooler names that we don't have. Like, it's cool to see a Narset every now and then. It's cool to get some of these other niche kind of, Planeswalkers.
Right, I kind of love the out there Planeswalkers.
Yeah, like I like Tameo. Like, the original Tameo was great. The new Tameo was okay. Like, it's still cool to play. And to me, like, the new symbol incorporating those Planeswalkers in their logo, I think is cool. And of course, Magic the Gathering got a cool little, font update and some color changes. I don't know, I kind of like it. In case you haven't seen it, listeners, we did post it to our Twitter earlier today. You can check it out at TiltedPod. Tell us what you think. Tweet us. Tell us what you think of the new symbol.
Tweet at us.
Tweet.
So, man, I think that that's pretty much it for news.
That's it for
news.
We're
just going to break down what we always break down. And that's decks. Modern results. But the thing is, there hasn't been that many tournaments. So we're going straight to challenges. We've got a Modern challenge and a Legacy challenge. So this is going to be a short episode, but here we go. Modern Challenge on October the 7th. This was taken down by Navas, a Navajo.
The Navajo.
By a blue-red deck that is not Storm.
It's not Storm.
But it is, it'll hit you with a whole lot of pesters.
It'll remind you of that old Splinter Twin deck that you hated.
It will. This is a cool deck, man. We are looking at a blue-red Blood Moon Spreading Seas / Kiki Jiki Deceiver Exarch Pestermite deck.
I think it's cool. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun. So imagine Blue Moon.
Yeah, it's kind of Blue Moon.
Meeting Splinter Twin.
Right. So, okay, cool. We'll break down the list. 4 Snapcaster Mages. Obviously, good card. 3 Deceiver Exarchs, 2 Pestermites. There's our combo dudes. 1 Keranos, God of Storms. Got to have that in there if you're going to be like the old twin. 2 Kiki Jikis. 1 Gear Hulk. 1 Burst Lightning. Very interesting choice. I like it. 2 Dispel, main deck, because you got to stick those Kikis. 4 Lightning Bolts. 4 Serum Visions. 1 Negate. 4 Remand, 1 Electrolyze, 2 Cryptic Command, and then our little hate package, 2 Spreading Seas, 3 Blood Moon. Lands, there's 23 of them. You can kind of figure them out.
They're blue-red.
Yeah. And what do you think about the main deck? The one of Burst Lightning is kind of interesting to me.
It is. I think that could be a couple different cards. I understand the kicking aspect of it. In case you don't know, Burst Lightning costs 1 red. If you kick it for 4, it does 4 instead of 2. I'm not sure I like it over
it's like
some other cards.
Better Shock, but no one plays Shock, and
no one really plays Shock. I don't know. I mean, I think that Bolt is probably a better choice here for the 3 damage. Not to mention you can snap Bolt. I also don't hate the red burn spell for 2 with split second.
They're already playing 4 lightning bolts, so they can't really play.
I mean, I guess like a bolt effect. I think.
Oh, like
like lava spike or something where it gets
just a straight to the face one though.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what you're wanting to do anyway. I mean in that situation,
I actually like something like Flame Slash here more. Okay, so it's like one mana, 4 damage to a creature. Yeah. Always, it's a sorcery. I mean, you can't go to the face, but I don't see them paying 5 to do 4 to the face, probably. Like, I guess you can. You have the option.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's
I think that to the face is, like, I think the major argument we've had in 2017 is what is better in Modern, Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt. And I think that because Lightning Bolt can go to the face, it's a better card. So I always think going to the face is a better advantage in some situations. It's just enough to finish them off. You get in a couple of snap hits, a couple of Deceiver Exarch hits, and a Lightning Bolt, and then all of a sudden you're 3 damage away from winning the game.
What about like Shard Volley here then instead? I mean, you're going to lose a land, but it's like
I like that too.
If you really want to end the game, you can end the game.
Yeah. And considering you got Spreading Seas and Blood Moons going anyway, sometimes those lands don't even matter. I mean, if you have a Blood Moon down and say you play a Desolate Lighthouse, you could Shard Volley that. It's doing nothing anyway.
Yeah, or something, I guess. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then sideboard, we've got 2 Engineer Explosives, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 1 Vandal Blast, 1 Negate, 1 Pyroclasm. I think this card is underplayed right now. 2 Roast, 1 Spreading Seas, 1 Anger, 1 Izzet Staticaster, 2 Jake's AOT, and a Pia and Kieran. Pia and Kieran been making their rounds.
Mom and Pop.
Yeah, Mom and Pop have been making the rounds in Modern. The sideboard looks good to me, man. I don't see anything I question too much. I think that Pyroclasm is a card that just kind of people forgot to play.
Yeah,
they've been forgetting, like, because Anger's there, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we'll play Anger. We need that extra 1. Right. But sometimes you really just need to hit that 2-drop
turn 2
wipe.
Yeah.
But you do not need it against Old Eldrazi, which came in at 6-1 at _CH1. This is,
Channel 1 news.
Your Channel 1 news. This is your standards. I mean, we're looking at the standard Eldrazi list that is still very good.
It's still so good. I mean, this one doesn't have the Warping Whales in the main board.
It does not have Warping Whales. This has the, it has the 1 Basilisk Collar and what? It's running the Ulamog, though. Yeah. A Worm Coil, 2 Endbringers, not the 4.
And 2 Karns, 3 Dismembers, 2 All His Dust, and a Basilisk Collar. I personally like this build with the Warping Whale in the main board, or at least 1.
I kind of like that now too.
Yeah, just to have it for Scape Shift, I think it's just a total blowout if you can pull it off. And I think that this is probably the most, maybe not the most powerful, but the most aggressive deck in Modern, almost as far as playing down big threats. It just gets so big and so out of control very fast.
I was like the most consistent.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. It's the most consistent.
There's definitely
deck.
more aggressive decks out there, but this one just it consistently drops. It's like one big threat after the next big threat.
That's what I wanted to say. Is that is the most consistent.
And I still think Chalice is just a good card.
Yeah.
Like sometimes Chalice isn't great, but when it's really good, this deck is really good.
Yeah, and I think Matter Reshaper is just an awesome card. I hate playing against it.
Matter Reshaper is the bridge this deck needs.
Mm-hmm. And Thought Knot is quite possibly the best card in the deck. Just as in
certain situations, yes.
Yeah, as far as just getting you to
some
the next
matchups,
turn.
it is insane. Other matchups, it's like,
right.
Let's
it's a 4/4 body.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sweet. Congratulations to UCH1, Channel 1. Gobbern also went 6-1 with Humans Company, a deck I have not seen in a little bit, but I do like. This, we're playing Retreat to Quarrelhelm combo, though, with Knight of the Reliquary. What do you think about this deck? It kind of popped up for a while, and then it
disappeared.
Yeah, disappeared,
and then popped back up, and then disappeared. I think it's great. I mean, you have so many options as far as how you want to play the game, and I think that being able to change strategies in a couple of turns is also a great advantage for decks. You can be on the retreat plan. You can also be on the grow Champion of Perish to a 9/9 and swing lethal plan. I like tireless trackers. You get to draw a bunch of cards. Coco is always going to find something good. I think the deck is solid.
Yeah, I think this deck is cool. I think this is you can just see so many different builds of this deck, right? Mm-hmm. Because as humans, it's essentially just a tribal deck, but this one looks pretty good, right? So you've got to run your 8 mana dorks. Mm-hmm. So you got your Avacyn's Pilgrims and your Noble Hierarchs. Luckily, all those guys are humans. Then you got your Champion of the Parish. He's getting pumped constantly. Thalia's Lieutenant, pump your whole team. Thalia Garden of Thraben. Storm is pretty popular. Knight of the Reliquary just gets out of control. You have to deal with that threat, right? Yeah. So everything else is kind of go wide. This is like the big go tall. Reflector Mage, I just think good tempo, good value, great off of a Collected Company, still great off of a Collected Company.
Yeah.
Thalia Heretic Cathar, there's only one of in this deck, but a great card. And then, like you said, the Tireless Trackers, Path the Exile, Collected Company, and Retreat to Coralhelm if you want to combo off. But in the sideboard, there's a couple cool things, right? I think you get something really cool.
I guess.
Unified Will, I think, is super cool.
Oh, okay, yeah. Unified Will, I think, is probably the best card in the sideboard.
Yes, I think it's awesome. 4 of Unified Will.
Yeah. Right?
So if you don't know what this is a counterspell that sometimes Merfolk plays. It's 1 in a blue, counter target spell if you control more creatures than that spell's controller. It is very likely that you are going to control more creatures. I mean, there are 12 1-drops in this deck.
Yeah.
And then a ton of 2s and 3s. Like, you're not... It's a company deck. There's nothing expensive in here. You're going to play multiple creatures per turn. Yeah. So against elves, you're not going to be packing this in because they also might be doing that to you. But almost any other deck, you're gonna be able to stop them from that Anger of Gods or whatever they have that they think they're going to get through. Speaking of stopping Anger of Gods, you've got a little Kithkin, not quite a human, but a Kithkin in Burrington Forge Center. 2 Aethersworn Canoness. 2 Stony Silence, 1 more Thalia, 2 Izzet Staticasters, which is just a great card, and then 2, I'm guessing this is the one that you're not so high on.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is this guy called? Vithian Renegades?
Vithian Renegades. Okay, so I like Bant Humans. I like Bant Humans Company. I think that's great. I think the 4th color is now stretching this a little bit. The Izzet Stratocaster, I can see being good in situations. I'm not sure that it's worth the splash to get there. Obviously, GoBurn has done a lot of testing and knows, more about this deck than I do. I'm looking at it from the outside. And then Vithian Renegades, I just don't think is a card that I would want to be on. It is a 3-drop, green, red, generic human shaman. It's a 3/2, so it's got a little bit of attacking power. And when it comes into play, you destroy a target artifact. I don't know how much I would want to splash for that card specifically.
Right. I mean, I think it's just the fact that it's a human. You can hit off Coco, as well as is it Staticaster, also human. You can hit off Coco.
Yeah.
And you already have to have the red in the deck if you want the Keswick Wolf Run package. Which
That's true.
You want.
That's true.
Right. I mean, he's only playing one red card, but he also has two caverns. Mm-hmm. You know, and he also is running neither Reliquary, which he can easily fetch up lands.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think it's that hard, but I can see where you're coming from, for sure. Like, you don't have, like, there's probably other cards there. Is it Staticaster? I don't know if there's any other card that does what that does as well. You know, that card's pretty important, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the Vithian Renegades, there's probably a better card. You know, maybe not, though, since it's got synergies. You know, that's what you gotta...
I mean, it does have synergies.
That's not your style. Yeah.
I don't know if, I don't know. It's hard.
All right, so Gaul Ducat. He's in fourth place here. Well, not really fourth place. He's also had a 6-1 list.
Yeah.
So
And
did very well.
This is the deck that I've been trying to brew for a while. He's on a little bit of a different version, but
It's a little more control-y.
Yeah, this is Esper Gideons.
Less Gideons. You know, like, I mean, there's still plenty of Gideons here, but it's not... You were running like 4s and stuff, right?
Yeah. My 9 Planeswalkers, I was actually at 10. I was running 4 of the Trials, 3 Ally of Zendikar, and 2 Jura. And so that put me at the 9 Gideons. And I had 1 Liliana the Veil.
Yeah, so he's running 9 Planeswalkers total. He's definitely cut down. I mean, he's not just like sticking Gideon after Gideon. I think this is probably closer to the way you want to go with it, just because you don't want to get flooded too much.
Yeah.
And having the threat diversity of having some JSAOTs, some more Lily of the Veils, because obviously we know that card is really good. But yeah, his Planeswalkers are 2 Gideon of the Trials, 2 Veils, 2 Gideon Ally, 2 Jace, 1 Gideon Yura.
I will say that the blue in the main board isn't as impactful. You do get 3 Snapcaster Mages and Jace AOT and Serum Visions and Supreme Verdict, and that's a great suite. And I think that the sideboard is where you really get most of the blue progression for the deck. And so I think that that's something that I might want to play test as well, because I think that there's ways to improve, you know, this style of deck, and I just have to find it. But the sideboard is sweet, man.
I like this deck a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I think this deck looks really good as a kind of a control. So, well, let's go through the spells real quick.
Okay.
3 Fatal Push, 3 Inquisition, 3 Path, 4 Serum, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Collective Brutality, 4 Lingering Souls, 2 Supreme Verdicts. I think this looks like a great main spell suite.
Yeah.
24 lands. You're getting them easy with those Serum Visions, etc. And then the sideboard, why don't you go over the sideboard?
It's 1 Collective Brutality, 2 Counter Squall. I like the Counter Squall a lot in this deck, actually. 2 Disdainful Strokes, 1 Flash Freeze, 2 Rest in Peace, which is just a bullet for some decks. 2 Dissension Spheres, I like that as well. There's a lot of threats that you can't handle sometimes. 1 Geist of Saint Trapped. I think this is an interesting pick. I think that Geist as a sideboard card is kind of a no of or a 3 of card. But that's just my personal opinion trying to play with it. 2 Spell Queller, that's probably where I would put the third or the Geist in there, and then 2 Supreme Verdicts.
Yeah, sweet deck.
Yeah, it's a sweet deck, and I'm glad that something like this has popped up and did well in a challenge.
All right, so those are the decks we're going to go fully over, but we are going to talk about a couple of these others. Sneaky Pete went 5-2 with Ad Nauseam. Haven't seen. I mean, Ad Nauseam just kind of pops up here and there.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it
just shows up every now.
It's a deck that's good. He's got Godhead of Awe in there in his sideboard, which is kind of cool. Flying and other creatures are 1/1s.
Yeah,
right. So he can just kind of pop that in 4/4 flyer, just destroy your team.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I like that. Then we've got a black-red. This one is not the Pack Rat deck, but this is the black-red Blood Moon deck. It's the Demigod of Revenge deck. I think Blood Moon goes really well with Liliana the Veil.
Yeah, I think so too.
And Hand Disruption and Damnation is fine. You know, like this is just like a good some Kalidases, some, you know, you've got a lot of ways and a ton of like looting effect, or, you know, there's looting and things like that. So I think it's really good. Black, red, green. This is a Vengevine deck. So this is by Tankinator. Nice.
The tanks.
So this is a Death Shadow, Flameblade Adept, Insolent Neonate, Bloodghast, Vengevine, Hollow One, Street Wraith, I'm sorry, Gurmag Angler, Burning Inquiry, what is Call of the Netherworld? All right, we're gonna have to talk. What is this? Return. Call of the Netherworld says it is 1 black. It says return target black creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Madness cost 0.
Well, that sucks for them.
Well, that seems pretty good.
Yeah.
So you're just going to discard that thing to whatever, anything in this deck that you can. Flame Blade Adapt. Oh, no, that's cycle. You have to cycle a card. Where are all the actual discard effects? Burning Inquiry, return like half the cards, I don't know. This is interesting.
Faithless Looting is probably your
only 18 lands. This is super weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, you can essentially play a turn 1 hollow 4/4, right? And then possibly, then turn 2, you could probably get a Vengevine out, and then you save those Death Shadows with this Call of the Netherworld. So you're discarding Death Shadows until you have low enough life that you can just like pop them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's pretty sweet. Your Gurmag Anglers, also, you're going to get those back. Yeah, this is a cool deck. The Burning Inquiry is just a wild card.
It is interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it's just so wild, and it could just screw up your opponent so bad. Lightning Axis, Shattering Spree, Collective Brutality, Big Game Hunter, Blood Moon, and Fairy Macabre in the sideboard. Also Grim.
I like those.
Yeah, it's cool deck.
Big Game Hunter is still a major player in Modern. I don't think people have... I think it's underestimated a lot, and I think that as a black card that costs 3 with a 1 madness that you can just destroy some of these big creatures out there is just great.
So in the rest of the tournament, we see some Dredge coming back, which is kind of cool. Some Eldrazi and Taxes mixed in with some Eldrazi Tron. If you go, not a whole lot of Affinity doing great, some 4/3s, but if you go down to the 4/3 list, there's also a white-red list by Spider Space, and Spider Space is a pretty sweet player. He's kind of known for playing the white decks. He's white-green Hate Bears or Death and Taxes, whatever you want to call it in Modern.
Yeah.
Also, he was working with Stabilo on a list that was like a white... Basically, a mono white Eldrazi splashing red, because you already have the Simian Spirit Guides. But here's one. It's a Chalice of the Void Gemstone Cavern deck, but you're running Leonin Arbiters, Thalias, and then Thought Knot Seers and Reality Smashers to kind of back it up and put a really quick clock down. So it's not quite like that Eldrazi Taxes list. This is more of a Chalice deck. This is more of a prison deck, but with a very aggressive clock.
Yeah.
I like that, and it's pretty cool that he did well. He did fine with it. They're not the easiest thing. But this actually has a new card, Settle the Wreckage.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that in Modern?
I think...
we've brought it up before as far as being a Modern playable. It is... I think that the card that everybody wanted to see for so long was an Instant Sweeper. And Terminus came out, and everybody's like, Instant Sweeper has to be super good, and it was in Legacy, for sure. Instant Sweeper.
Yeah, but it's only instant whenever you can...
Whenever you can miracle it. But it kind of tamed everybody's, callings for this Instant Sweeper. And now we kind of have one, and I think it is severely underestimated in the beginning. And as more and more decks are picking it up to play with in Standard and in Modern as it seems, it's becoming a pretty reliable card.
I really need to play with it to find out, but yeah, I think it's probably pretty good.
The fact that, I think we talked about this last week, the fact that it changes how your opponents deal with combat is just great, because you could have it or not have it, and people have to play around it. And I think Jim Davis even had an article about how most people thought he had it in hand all day and played around it all day, and that was just another one of those marginal advantages that he obtained.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a cool card. Yeah, I like it. I'm glad to see it breaking into Modern.
So I'm gonna eat my own words here, Seth.
What's up?
I think that I said that Jund was coming back as the king of Modern.
Yeah.
And there is not a single Jund list.
No, there's no traditional Jund in this in here at all.
In the Modern
There's
challenge.
not even like an Abzan list. No, they're 4/3. There's God of Slaughter.
Ooh.
But yeah, a little rough.
Yeah.
there,
So,
Nick.
what happened? What do you think happened?
I think that Jund can be really good and piloted by in the right hands, but I think that its sideboard options aren't as good as white sideboard options in a lot of lists.
Yeah.
If you notice, there's a lot of either Blood Moon Chalice or white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you need some way to hate out a lot of the riffraff. And I don't know, man. I think there's still a place for it for sure.
Right. Well, let's talk about one thing real quick, and that when Ixalan came out, everybody was super pumped on Ripjaw Raptor. They thought this was going to be definitely a standard staple.
And Registar Alpha.
Everybody thought it was going to be a standard staple, and it could break into Modern in some aggressive decks.
Possibly as, a 4/5 or drawing a card.
Jund's one of those decks that has that spot available. We've seen Huntmaster, Olivia, Kalidas. That 4-drop spot has always been available. What do you think about Ripjaw Raptor and Jund?
So I guess you could play it with Olivia.
Yeah.
And then
just
ping
for
it
cards.
And pump your Olivia, make it a vampire, and just draw cards every turn for 2 mana. You could do that. That's kind of cool.
It's got some synergy.
I could see that, but then you're fighting with its 2 mana slot.
Yeah.
Or with the 4 mana slot, because if you're playing Olivia, you only have so many other 4 mana slots in your deck.
Right.
I think it possibly has potential. Anything that says draw cards, I think has potential in any format. Almost.
And I think that's how Jund wins a lot of its games is by out attritioning you as far as card draw and hand disruption, stuff like that.
Right.
And it seems like a card that would fit right in with that kind of deck style.
Yeah,
it's just finding a way to abuse it.
All right, we are going to talk a little. I mean, that's all the Modern we had, really.
That's it.
I would break down this Legacy Challenge, but I don't really think we're going to. I will say this: Eldrazi Stompy starts showing up again, but there's nothing on here that okay, we're going to talk about the 6-0 list. Actually, it's Dredge. Haven't seen Dredge on here in a long time. In MTGO especially. It is a very cheap deck online, $72, right?
Yep.
You could be playing Legacy Dredge. It beat all these very expensive decks on there. It's a great deck. It randomly just smashes, but you know what? Just congratulations to Savak or Savak, however you say that, for taking this deck down with Dredge. And if you guys have never played Dredge in Legacy, it is so much more fun than it is playing it in Modern. I mean, it's not even the same deck. They're very different actually when it comes down to it. And I suggest trying to sleeve it up. Just try to just mess around with it. There's got to be somebody in your area that plays a little Legacy. Just sleeve up some Dredge and see what happens. Proxy it out. You don't need a lot of crazy lands, right? You got things like you don't even have to play lands. Oh, never mind. This was straight up manaless Dredge.
Yeah, manaless Dredge.
This wasn't even regular Dredge, like Lion's Eye Diamond Dredge. This is manaless Dredge.
Yeah. With
no LEDs. So yeah, this deck is wild, dude.
I think it's great. I think the sideboard's great. I think this deck's great. It's cool that Surgical Extraction is probably the most expensive card in it. I think actually Surgical Extraction is the only reason this deck is worth anything online. Yeah, Surgicals and Bridge from Below. That's the only reason why this deck is even under or over $200 in paper.
Yeah,
let alone online.
Yeah, online this deck costs nothing if you don't play Surgical.
Yeah.
Just sleeve it up. Just try it. It's super fun, and then you can kind of break into a format that we need more people playing. Honestly, I mean, it just needs some people playing it, and you don't have to have the most expensive deck. You don't need to play lands right away. Just try to get in there with something else, and you'll grow. If you like it, it'll grow, and you'll expand your collection by. You just move on through Standard into Legacy or from Modern into Legacy.
For sure.
If people in your area play.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a very important part. But I think that's going to be it.
That's it.
This week, man.
We're donesies.
So like always, join in on the conversation at Tilted Pod on Twitter. And I hope that you guys have a really good week.
Oh, wait, hold on.
What?
We got to give away some packs. I forgot. I promised to give away.
Okay. What's that?
So
how are we going to do it?
What do you want to do? You want to get somebody to tweet at us? I like that. They tweet at us, tell us a fun story.
Yeah. Give us some bad beats.
Yeah, bad beats or a favorite card from Ixalan.
Okay. Either one or both.
Either one or both.
Or both. Yeah. The winner gets 5 packs.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Sweet, guys. All right. That's our time. So from Seth, Jack Wilds, whatever the hell my name is, and the Daywalker,
Nate Morris.
We out.
Peace.
Ah!